Dad's attitude and our family's attitude was, yep, we're doing this, let's get stuck in and do that. And what he achieved when you look at, from being a young man to be self-made and to build boats, build lawnmowers, be successful in that, and then to run through and to get into Dreamworld, and over a decade turned it from nothing into a $160 million business, was really, really amazing to be a part of that. Now looking back and understanding where he was coming from, you know, it's very special, but certainly a remarkable man.
I'm Rodney Longhurst, and I'm the owner of Riviera Luxury Motor Yachts, and I spend most of my day working with a team of over 900 trying to build better and better luxury motor yachts that we can export around the world and within Australia.
I'm Tony Longhurst. I'm the CEO of the family business, The Boat Works at Coomera, alongside Riviera. I'm Rodney's older brother, so I'm probably a bit wiser or more intelligent, maybe not. We've got a small staff here of only about 35, but on site we've got now about 1,000 to 1,500 contractors a day. So between Riviera and the Boat Works in the Coomera Marine Precinct, we're responsible for over 2,000 people directly. Indirectly, probably another 1,000, maybe even more. So it's a big operation now. Our dad, John Longhurst, originally had pace lawnmowers, and he got into building Pride boats, fiberglass boats, so he could see what was happening overseas. He was very successful at that, sold that business, and then he wanted to build a theme park. We've been to America obviously a dozen times and wanted to build a theme park like Disneyland, and was looking for land around Sydney, out towards Liverpool and Penrith, all different areas, and somehow eventually came up with the idea of being in Queensland and the land here at Coomera. He bought in 1974. Paid $900 an acre. The stuff that was on the highway, about $1,100 an acre. Bought a couple of hundred acres there nearly. And Dreamworld evolved. So we've been at Coomera for a long time. We moved up from Sydney, 75, I think, 74, 75, 76. Yep. And been in the Coomera area ever since.
I remember driving up in 1974, just in time for the great floods that were going on up here, and going to the property that would become Dreamworld and looking all around it. I was 9 years old, so I was no property expert, but I remember thinking it was in the middle of nowhere. There was some cows, I think, on there. Otherwise, it was pretty barren.
Massive undertaking. Looking back at the time, Dad was always so positive and thought, oh yeah, it's just going to happen. And it was in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing between Rang and Brisbane, you know, 2-lane road. The road came right through the middle of where Dreamworld actually is now, the car park. And then once it started, it was a slow evolution.
I remember coming up to the sheep dip.
Yeah, that's how it was.
It was full of old cane toads.
That was near where the entry is to Dreamworld on top of the hill. You know, the Plaza restaurant was built in this area. But he'd actually go along and peg out things.
He'd put his mental map onto the ground and line mark it and pegs and...
For the train track, you know, after he got the lake dug out, after a year and a half on a bulldozer, a year and a half, starting at 6 o'clock in the morning and working till dark, then worked out where he wanted to put the train track. So we did everything sort of thing, you know, the train carriages had the steel come in. You know, you just couldn't do it now. But anyhow, it was a labour of love. We were all up there, the family would come up, would pick up pine cones, cut down trees, and it slowly evolved over 3 years. Got the lake in, started to build the paddle boat, put the railroad track down. I laid the bricks for the railroad station. Started to build the IMAX theatre, the restaurants, the entry area. But we just kept on working, and it was virtually a 7-day job. It was for me. I was obviously a bit older than Rodney. We got to the last year and then borrowed some money and really got stuck into it. So the last year was very hectic. By the time we got within 2 or 3 months of opening the park, we had no more credit, no more finance from the bank, and we just had to really lean on the suppliers to get the park finished. So it was very, very stressful, and it was amazing that it opened and was successful straight away and had a good cash flow. Dad was able to pay around back without going bankrupt. I think about that time Rodney joined us, so then in the future development, I think Rodney was on site from virtually then on in 81, 83 or something.
Yeah, but so it slipped in easy for me to sort of work full time when I got out of school, and left school at 15 and started my apprenticeship straight away as a cabinet maker and carpenter. And there were great tradesmen on the job, like really, really great tradesmen who helped me learn just an enormous amount, which I still use today. We were doing anything and everything. So although I was a carpenter and joiner, we were doing train tracks, or we were building mountains, or we were testing water slides, or all of this type of thing that perhaps isn't traditional.
Every year, Dad would come up with another idea, you know, we'd keep adding to the parks. Koala bear area down the bottom, or the rapid ride area, put in a roller coaster. He was full of ideas.
People who did come and see this would say to Dad, "What are you doing? What makes you think you can make something like this work?" And he was just like, "I can make it work." I remember I went to one of the schools up here, and one of the kids said to me at school, I was in grade 5, and he said, "My dad says your dad's crazy and you're going to go broke." And I remember going home that night and saying to my mother, I said, "What does broke mean?"
Now when I look back, you know, his undertaking was just massive. To pick Coomera, and now 40 years on, Coomera's like the centre of the universe for us. You know, with Westfield here, Foxwells Road, all the houses that have been built here, this marine precinct, and it's all because of him. So, you know, it's something for us to be very, very proud of.
Well, there wasn't just the vision, it was the relentless belief. He loved Henry Ford for the productivity, the production line, and he loved Disney for the creativity. Putting those two together, how can I be super creative and do it in a productive manner and it be commercially viable, was sort of all mixed in together. But there was never a time that I can recall where he felt like we're in trouble. There was just always a yes, we can. He was always a builder and a creator and a doer. He would always get stuff done. He was a super hard worker. His father was a perfectionist upholsterer. But his father also taught him that if you believe in yourself, you can do anything. And father has told me the story many times where he had a rough trot and said to his father, you know, "What am I going to do?" And he said, "Well, maybe you should get in business for yourself or make something yourself." And he said, "But everything's already made." And his father said to him, "There's more opportunity tomorrow than ever there was today." He's told us that story many, many times, and his father totally believed him and just said, "Of course you can do it. It can be done, you've just got to believe." So there was never a place to hide. Things can be done. And that's what he drummed into us relentlessly.
Yeah, what I remember is, you know, there's no such thing as can't, just get rid of the T. So never negative. Always, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And so I think that probably for me, that was the biggest life lesson. For me to open this book and just bounce happened to be straight onto this page here. Our dad worked for our grandfather, Laurie Hall, at Mortlake in Sydney. So he's got an engineering shop, and our grandfather was a bit of on our mum's side, was a bit of a nutty professor sort of guy, always making things, but he was into mechanical things, so making putt-putt engines for boats. Everything comes back to boats, Rodney. And so our grandfather put a putt-putt motor on a disc for a plough disc and put wheels on, and arguably invented the first powered lawnmower in Australia. A guy, Merv Richardson, came in, and he was a salesman selling stuff to my grandfather, and he saw the mower and asked my grandfather could he have one. So my grandfather made one for him, and then this Merv Richardson started to make mowers. Well, Merv Richardson invented Victor. So Merv Richardson is making Victor, and so my grandfather's making parts for Victor. And he goes, he's never, you know, he'd come in and order 1,000 bits or 100 bits, and he goes, oh, he's going to go broke. So here, Dad goes and starts making mowers in a garage. My grandfather's looking at both these people going, oh, they're both going to go broke, you know, both become millionaires, and my grandfather's still messing around making parts for them. that he could have done that and owned the whole market. It's just bizarre that Dad, as a young man, age 20 or whatever he was able to pick it up. Picture of pace lawnmowers. Here's our
Mum's
model pushing a mower.
So he, at the time, was building around 1,000 mowers a week, where Dad was creating everything and wanted to build his own engine, and he built one of them. It would have, been a far, far superior product. Victor found out about that and offered him an amount he couldn't refuse. They offered him the equivalent of about $10 million today, and he took it.
John was creative, definitely a visionary. That would be the first word I'd describe him as. Secondly, determination. Thirdly, perfectionist. And I think if you track through all the businesses that he had, they all come from the essence of creativity. Great Adventures Group was an adjunct to Dreamworld. It was the far north Queensland island Great Barrier Reef asset. And there were two beautiful islands there. There was the Green Island and Fitzroy Island. And then there was the catamarans and boats that would take you out to the islands or to the reefs. That business he bought in about 1988 and had great big plans. He was going to turn it into one of the destination tourism places of Australia, and if not globally. What stopped all that was a guy called Bruce Jenkins, who came along with an offer to buy Dreamworld in 1989. It was a terrific sale for John. He didn't have to wait long for his next adventure though, because within 12 months he bought the Logan Hyperdome. His creativity is what inspires him. He came up with an idea to build a mini Disneyland in front of the main entrance. Financially, it was a terrific success. I think in 2012, John sold to QIC and exited it altogether. At that time, he would have been 80 years old, and he saw his children as the future of where they were going. And that's the legacy that he leaves.
Although he loved making things, he was a manufacturer, he was an operator, he was a marketer, but his greatest love was looking at anything and saying, I can make that better.
Yeah.
I can take that to the next level. Pace lawnmowers, Pride boats, Dreamworld, Great Adventures. Everything was about going back to that. How do you give people or your customer a better experience, something better than what they've already had, something memorable, and just had that absolute belief that it could be done. And if it hadn't been done yet, it was just that, yet.
That was passed on to us. I think that was a very, very good quality.
I met Rodney while he was at Dreamworld doing construction work. But in the mid-90s, Rodney went out into a different business called Koala Backpackers. And they built a very successful backpacker operation scattered along the Queensland coast. And after 16 years, Rodney exited that business and bought Coomera Slipway. Now, Coomera Slipway is the Gold Coast Marine Centre. And that would have been a few years earlier than buying Riviera. Rodney's business was building boats. And the family has a boating history. They've been in love with boats all their lives. Along comes Rodney, and with, I guess, his dad's voice in the background, and said, we just got to put money into the new models. And it's a little bit like Dreamworld. You had to keep building new attractions to bring people back. And it's the same with Riviera.
So this is shed 11 we're walking into now. So this is where all of our fit out of our larger Rivieras takes place. So you'll see upholsterers, cabinet makers, shipwrights all doing their job all through here and putting the finishing touches on the boats before they go down to the water. In total, there's around 900 people on site. We're always trying to train and help people get to the next level. So with our training program, with our Propel and also TAFE training programs, many of the people here will have come through those programs. And if they haven't come through, they'll be mentoring the apprentices coming through those programs. So there's over 500 people have gone through that program to become master craftspeople. Here we have the brand new Riviera Academy of Excellence. And this is where we do our apprentice training program. Really allows this transfer of knowledge. And without that, we'd be in a world of challenges. It's made Riviera sustainable and able to be operated in a country like Australia.
The interesting part is this for me. The family ends up with two really terrific businesses and assets side by side. 700 metres of absolute river frontage, 5 kilometres from Dreamworld. And that's the irony of it, and that's what John would have loved. Now Tony's a racing car driver, and that's the style of person he is. He's very quick out of the blocks and runs a very fast pace. Tony had been in the racing car business, and he had some properties and other things that kept him busy, but he was really looking for another challenge, if you like, the best way to describe that, and he found it here. And he really put his heart and soul into it. So the build out of this property was unbelievably quick, done in terrific quality. And the thing that his father has taught both of them is attention to detail, to do it right, do it once, and the perfection. So that's some of the attributes they got from their dad, and it's still there today.
The boatworks has got DNA from Dreamworld. There's no question about it. You know, how much of a perfectionist Dad was on landscaping. So, you know, I carried that into here. Again, Dad at Dreamworld would go at the park in the morning, making sure the place is spotlessly clean. There's not a cigarette butt or a paper. You know, that DNA is here in the boatworks, for better or worse, I'm not sure. And, you know, I know that I drive our staff crazy, but it's a nice element. I sit here and how beautiful it is. So it's really nice that because of his success at Dreamworld, it's really wonderful to look back on that now. He was in the area, he lived at Sanctuary Cove, so he was regularly at Riviera and regularly at the boatworks. So he could see what we're doing.
If ever we wanted to know what we should do next or get critiquing, all we had to do was bring him up here and he would well and truly let us know. Constant refinement, I call it.
We've got 55 acres, we've got 70 sheds now, and we're up to the stage now where we're doing about 60 boats a week out of the water, so it's 120 boat movements a week. And we're definitely the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. We've got 80 on-site businesses, plus we've got other trades that come in vans or utes, so that's where the workforce comes from. And it's massive. Some of these big boats now, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars a year they spend on maintenance. Bigger boats from overseas, someone might have 120 or 130 footer in the Mediterranean. They're buying that boat, bringing it here and refurbishing it, like, you know, renovating a house. So we're seeing a huge amount in that. We've become a destination for the east coast of Australia. There's no other facility like the boatworks or like the marine precinct. Still don't know how it happens to be at Coomera behind Dreamworld, but that's how it's evolved. This is a big deal here now. Riviera's a big deal, and you know, that all comes from Dad and the legacy that he's passed on to us. When we moved up here, there was nothing across the Tope Island. It was just all farmland around here. Farmland from here back to Nerang. Nothing. We first came here, he said, this will happen in our lifetime. You know, the Gold Coast will join up with Brisbane, and he was correct.
I think we'll just keep refining. Opportunities will come along, and they'll come along because we'll be ready. And to have it here on the Gold Coast, Australia's favourite tourist destination, to have the quality of infrastructure that is now on the Gold Coast, this will be the hub for forever going forward. because you just can't pick it up and stick it somewhere else. The skills here are the greatest in the whole country by a long way. So as those skills transfer down to the up and coming, whether they're apprentices or tradespeople, this will be the hub for forever going forward, because you just can't pick it up and stick it somewhere else. And the learning is here and the families will be here. So we're pretty happy with how that's evolved, how that growth occurs in the future. We don't always know that part, but I feel like Dad, we're always preparing and opportunities will come.